Hi, I'm Yu Kyung-won. Nice to meet you. I believe that if you don't have a dream, you don't necessarily need to go to college. However, if you've consistently studied hard and have the ability to get into a so-called prestigious university, then I think it's worth going even if you don't have a dream yet. I made this video for people like my high school senior year self who didn't have the grades or academic ability to get into prestigious universities. There's a common belief that says if you don't have a dream, study hard, get into a prestigious university, and gain more opportunities. I heard that a lot when I was in high school too, but I think it's only half true. Have you ever heard of the sophomore slump in college? A lot of people graduate high school without having a clear dream or personal values. They simply hear that getting into a prestigious university is a good thing, so they spend extra years retaking exams, go to a college that matches their grades, get a job, and eventually get married. And if they fall behind this track or step off it even slightly, they feel like their life is ruined. But I think living that way is dangerous. Of course, if you stay on that track, you will probably live an average stable life. But life can start to feel empty. If you never stop to ask yourself who you are, what you truly want, what interests you, or what kind of life you want to live, then yes, you may end up with a good job or become a professional and live comfortably. I'm not denying that. But as many of you already know, meritocracy is not fair. Some people succeed and some people don't. Since society is based on relative evaluation, there is realistically a limit to which universities people can get into. I'm not denying the importance of effort, but even with effort, there are limits to the scores people can achieve. There are already many statistics showing that the higher a family's income is, the more likely their children are to attend prestigious universities. Wealthier families can invest more money into education, especially during high school when students are competing for top universities. Naturally, that gives them a much higher chance to success. Of course, I also think there's no perfectly fair system besides meritocracy, but I still want to say that meritocracy itself is not truly fair either. The problem with meritocracy is that when studies get low grades, they start believing they are lazy or didn't try hard enough. But that's not necessarily true. College entrance exams are artificially designed systems meant to rank people from first place to last place using a single standard. Results are affected by IQ, family background, environment, personality, and many other factors. So even if your grades are low, don't lose hope. Until high school, I believed that if I work hard enough, I can achieve anything I want. Now that I'm 26 years old, I know that belief is not 100% true. Academic gaps begin forming from a very young age. My parents both worked full time and had little interest in education. They did make me study, but mostly just things like memorizing English vocabulary or Chinese characters. I wanted to become better at Japanese, and I thought taking lessons would help more than studying alone, but my parents opposed it, so I ended up teaching myself. When I was younger, I dreamed of becoming a professional golfer. Looking back now, my family wasn't healthy, but my father encouraged me to pursue it anyway. When you are in kindergarten or elementary school, you are heavily influenced by your parents because you don't really know anything yet. And honestly, that influence continues afterward too. But now I think that getting into a prestigious university through studying probably had a much higher chance of success than becoming a K League 1 soccer player or a KPGA Tour professional. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had focused on academics, the area I naturally had talent in from an earlier age. In the end, a lot of life comes down to luck. I don't mean to blame my parents, actually. Maybe part of me does. But at the time, both my parents and I believed that path was the right one. They supported me in their own way, and I was able to experience things that most people never get to experience. So I think experiences should simply be accepted as experiences without judging them entirely by today's standards. Anyway, what I really want to say is this: a lot of life is luck. Not being born in North Korea is luck. Not being born into an abusive household is luck. Not being born an orphan is luck. I think the world is deeply shaped by luck and circumstances. That's a deterministic way of thinking. Of course, humanity still hasn't answered the question of free will versus determinism. But personally, I think believing you have free will make life emotionally easier. So I think it's better for your happiness to live as you have free will, as if you have free will. But don't completely deny determinism either. Neither side has been proven. So even if life doesn't go the way you want, there's no reason to endlessly ask yourself, why can't I succeed? I know my thoughts are jumping around, but my conclusion is simple. If you don't have a dream, you don't have to go to college. Try working a minimum wage job first. If you can support yourself and feel satisfied with the life, then there's nothing wrong with continuing it. If you dislike it or feel like you are capable of more, then consider learning a skill. My mother runs a hair salon and makes very good money. Skilled trades can be excellent careers. IT and programming are also fields where academic background matters less than actual ability. Explore fields that interest you and try challenging yourself. And if none of those paths interest you either, then maybe that's the point where you should consider preparing for a 4-year university. When I was in the military, there was a senior who had graduated from a prestigious high school and spent years trying to enter a top university. But eventually he thought, what am I even doing with my life? So he went to Japan on a working holiday. Later, he started preparing for the civil service exam, but suddenly decided he wanted to become a prosecutor. He studied for the college entrance exam again and eventually got into Seoul National University's humanities program. I thought that was genuinely admirable. Not because he got into Seoul National University, but because he seriously questioned his future, experienced different things, and only after that decided what university and major he truly wanted to pursue. Then he studied with conviction and found his own path. That's what I found impressive. So to summarize what I want to say, if you don't have a dream, I don't think you need to go to college right away. And again, if you already have the academic ability to enter a prestigious university, then going is probably worth it, even without a dream. I made this video for people like my high school senior yourself, who didn't have the grades or academic ability to get into prestigious universities. After graduating high school, try working a minimum wage job first. If you can live that way and feel content, then continue. If not, consider running a practical skill, hairdressing, IT programming. There are many fields where academic prestige matters less. And if you still feel unsatisfied and realize you want a career that requires a 4-year degree, then prepare for college at that point. Thank you for watching.